Welcome to the OBR streaming network. This is All Eyes on Cleveland. My name is Brad Ward. The man next to me is the one and only Casey Kinnamon. What is going on, big case dog?
Considering where we are at in the season and what we have facing us on Sunday, the guest that you're having on tonight's got me pumped. I'm glad we're talking to someone outside of the sphere of what we're going through right now. A little bit of perspective, but I'm just pumped to be here, man.
Yeah, I'm fired up. This should be a fun show tonight. What's up, Larry, Greg? Yes, I agree with Greg. Hit like and subscribe. If you're over on X, hop on over to youtube.com/orange and brown report. We've got an awesome show planned for you tonight. At around 7:30 or so, we will have Ken Rodgers, showrunner and creative director for Hard Knocks. He has worked with NFL films for years and years and years, including directing 30 for 30s and HBO specials. His list of works is quite impressive, including Hard Knocks. If you've ever listened to All Eyes on Cleveland, or if you did for years, you've heard him on my show every year since 2018 when the Browns were on the first time, and Jarvis Landry made That Shit's Contagious famous.
That was a seminal project, just because like where we were at as a franchise, coming off the 1-31, and you're starting to stack a bunch of high draft picks, and like the hope springs eternal thing, and it was like our turn, and it felt like until that season 2018, we just couldn't push that boulder up the hill. It just kept rolling back on us. We kept staying down here in the bottoms, and that's when it began, and we were able to start to actually make progress as an organization and get that boulder up the hill to a different plateau. So like, and for me, I always associate that with that Hard Knocks.
Yeah. It was a crazy Hard Knocks with Freddie and Hugh, Todd Haley in that mix.
And his crystals.
Yeah.
I remember all kinds of just random things from it.
Yeah, it was a wild one. You know, Jarvis' speech was epic, but Todd
Haley celebrating kickers.
Yeah. And then what's his name, who said Hut and his belly would bounce every time.
My blanket, I can see him. Looks like a walrus.
Yes.
That's going to kill me. Name? I'll get it. I'll just blurt it randomly throughout the show at some point.
Anyways, good season. And then that was Baker's rookie year. Yep. So,
and Nick Chubb not getting recognized at an airport.
Yep. And very cool. So he'll be on, and we're going to ask him about, what do you think, Case, of what you've seen from Hugh congratulating Baker for being the backup? Yeah.
Odd, right?
Terrible.
I'm driving the bus. The
bus driver. Yeah. Yep. Bob Wiley. Good call.
Damn it. I'm mad I didn't get that right off rip. Slipping.
Yep.
Keeping me honest, chat.
So he'll be on, and we can ask him. You guys have questions about this year's show. He's a tremendously nice guy, and nice of him to lend some time in the middle of what I'm surely is a very busy time. As I can't imagine that they have a waking second right now. With everything that they're doing, 4 teams. That's one of my questions, is I want to know, the undertaking of just sheer volume of film and video that has to be scoured for some of these moments. Crazy.
Yeah. The amount of teams involved, the editing process, how quick of a turnaround it is. Like, it's
Sunday.
It's going to be a gargantuan task.
Yeah. We're going to talk to him about all that stuff. So he'll be on here in a little bit. But we've got some other stuff going on here. Brown's getting ready to host the Chiefs. Yeah, he's getting ready to host the Chiefs. You guys are talking Belichick in the chat, which is just an intriguing thing. And we talked about it last night. Like, what a strange move. It's a head scratcher case. I don't understand it. Why would you want to go? Like, now is like the worst time, in my opinion, to be a college football coach.
Yeah, well, like, because part of it's being a politician, and you have to recruit these kids and like sell them on you, and then kind of glaze them up in the process. I can't see him glazing up people and telling them how awesome they are. And
well, Lombardi's going to be his GM.
Yeah, well, dude, his first hire as a coach, the coaching staff was Freddie Kitchens. Like,
we have
did not see that coming, boys.
Yeah,
but like,
he's coaching
the bowl game. The connection. Freddie came in the league with Parcells in Dallas. Obviously, Parcells, the two Bills. You see that where the connection could be, but I just can't imagine a conversation in a room with just those two. How that would go, like how it would sound.
Greg asking if this it's his. I see. Listen, like, is it a trap game for Casey? I don't think Casey has any.
I don't think it matters.
No,
I don't think it matters. They play with their food no matter who it is.
Exactly.
If it's Carolina, they're playing with their food. They're So I fully expect to be in this game late in the second half because that's every game they've played.
Yeah, they play and somehow, I mean, the doink kick going through the blocked field goal in Denver on a chippy. I mean, it's crazy what Kansas City is doing. They haven't dominated anybody.
I can't imagine Andy Reid wants to play this way.
No.
It's a lot of unnecessary stress, it feels like. Like, my barber is a Chiefs fan, and he didn't just get here on the bandwagon. Like, he's lifelong Chiefs fan from a kid.
Yeah.
From a Okoye on. And like, he was like, I hate it. He's like, I think, but I was like, I think the players hate it too, because you'll see these players in the locker room after a win, and it looks like someone died. It's like every week, just scrape. It's the same game every week. Play with your food, and then at the end of the game, you have to make a play, and someone makes the play.
Yeah,
like, it's a crazy way to live.
Typically 15. I mean, the amount of ways that he's found ways to win games is just remarkable. He is amazing. I heard on the radio the other day them talking that if you had to choose right now, would you take Josh Allen or Mahomes? Because like right now, Allen's playing better.
Yeah, I'd still take Mahomes.
I would take Mahomes too, just because he finds a way to win.
A lot of Allen's stuff is his physical abilities.
Yeah.
And over time, that will diminish, where I think Mahomes can do what he's doing right now. It looks like minimal effort. Like, he can do that in perpetuity until his arm gives out.
Connie wants to talk about important things. Is Taylor Swift going to be at the stadium?
I knew that. I know that's coming. I knew
it was coming too.
Well, her tour is over. I heard that on a talk show.
I think my understanding is, I don't know, but the rumblings are, why wouldn't she be?
Yeah.
Tour's over.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a reason for it or against it.
Cleveland is glorious. You come enjoy in the gray weather that I have. So I bought, just to give you an idea, we bought some of these lights that are solar powered. We haven't had any sun in 3 days. Nothing. Yeah. So they don't work at all. That's where we're at in Northeast Ohio. Yeah. All right. So good news. Cedric Tillman going to be back. It looks like, right? Practiced today.
He practiced, yeah.
So would you expect him to play, Casey?
I don't know, man. It's the concussion protocol. You got to get to full participation.
Sure.
But the fact that he's back on the field is definitely trending in the right direction. I'm unaware that if he has a history of concussion. When I remember during the draft process, looking at his injuries, they were all lower body stuff. Nothing like, he had missed time for a concussion in college. Hopefully he didn't have any in high school. But as long as he didn't have a history of it, and it's not like I feel like it's probable. And listening to the way Stefanski was talking, I feel like it's probable.
Yeah, I think so too. Stefanski made it seem like that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm anxious to see him and Jerry play together as Jerry has ascended with Tillman not there and Tillman ascended before that. I want to see them together, kind of make this thing work with Jameis, right? And then, the DTR conversation has crept into this things as we had some reports from the OBR that Pete got and our guys got about that situation where they're trying to get DTR to earn this spot. They're giving the opportunity to earn some playing time down the stretch. And then, we talked about this last night a lot, but like he's made 3 starts in the NFL.
Yeah.
DTR has.
With
But a
0
lot of
prep time.
But yeah, 0 prep time. But a lot of people want to just, they think they've seen enough. Where are you at?
Well, there's two things here.
Okay.
He played a shit ton of ball in college.
Yes.
So there's a ton of reps and in a complicated system. Chip Kelly's system is pretty complicated. For the most, there's a lot of pro concepts in there, a lot of high tempo spread. There's all kinds of different things that he played at UCLA, and he played a ton of stops. So there's one stream of thought that he's closer to what he's going to be just based on his number of reps. When you see guys that played in Bo Nix, that your learning curve should be faster because of that once you enter the league.
Yeah.
And I think he's just going to be a run first quarterback. And I don't think people can come to grips with that. I just think that
really
is because of his physical abilities. I think that's going to be part of his game. I don't think you're going to coach him into being a standard drop back guy. He's going to be mobile, not necessarily run but move the pocket, scrambling, making plays with his legs and his arm, and in conjunction. So it might not look the way you think it looks. And some people are down on that. Yeah, but if you look across the league, you can have success like that. I'm more worried about his ability to stay healthy doing that. That's where my concern comes in. But no, the book's far from written on the kid. I think that, you talk about the 3 starts and it's like, oh yeah, one came with 2 or 3 hours notice. The last time we saw him play, he was he was inactive and then was the 3rd emergency quarterback. And then just that morning was suddenly the backup and then was thrust into duty. Who knows how his mind was? There's a lot of things that are up in the air, but I'm not ready to see it yet because I'm not ready to shove Jameis off into the distance. I like what I'm seeing out of these receivers. I like some of the things that I'm seeing, and I'm properly being able to evaluate based on the way Jameis operates. There's things about Jameis, the way he operates that is rubbing people the wrong way. And it felt like after the last game, some of the language Stefanski used in the post game made it feel like they were close to the hook.
It did. You're getting a good evaluation of the offense and the wide receivers with Jameis for sure. I think you get him this week, and then I think it's probably DTR for the last 3.
I really want to see Jameis against Cincinnati. That's look, man, we're to the point in the season where a win actually doesn't help us now because we're mathematically eliminated. Beat Cincinnati. I want to finish at minimum 3-3 in the division. But I honestly feel like if Jameis had been the backup in that first Cincinnati game, that we win that game. I feel like he'd been more ready for that moment just because of his experience coming in, and I want to beat Cincinnati. That's where I'm at. And then you could say you beat all 3 of your divisional opponents in the same year. I'll feel better about it. I know enough Bengals fans that it would help me mentally to beat Cincinnati. And I think Jameis can do that for you.
Yeah, I think he can too. It's interesting, Jason in the chat and a couple other people Uh, and that's the general consensus around Cleveland, from what I've gathered, is people have kind of written DTR off. They're like, Jason, I don't, I'm good if I never see DTR again. And like, okay, that's fine. But you took a 5th round draft pick on him, and he's played a ton of ball, and he's not really had a fair shake
He's got an intriguing skill set, man.
at anything. He does have an intriguing skill set. I just think, and here it is again. DTR is never going to be a star, and that may be the case.
True.
But you got to find out for sure.
He may, dude. If he ends up being your backup, then he's worth a 5th round pick. You know what I'm saying? So no, I don't agree with that line of logic. I'm not saying he's ever going to be great. I'm not even saying he's going to be good. But like, you owe it to yourself to find out, and it also pushes up the timeline for where you need to draft your next quarterback, even if you're drafting for a backup, even if you're not drafting for a potential starter. So.
Yeah, and Fumble making the point. 3 starts is absolutely nothing, and
especially when you factor in the lack of prep time, it's less than
yes, twice thrown to the wolves.
Playing on instincts out there in the NFL.
Yeah, I would at least. He is very fragile. I agree, Gregory, and as Casey's point, you worry about his injuries, but I would just, even if it's 2 games, then, maybe it's not Cincinnati, but maybe it's the last 2. Matt making the same point about his durability. Absolutely. That's a concern. But, Pete made this point last night. He's bigger than Shedeur Sanders is. I mean, considerably. So, and
tremendously more athletic than Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. If you want, I just think you've got to give him like first team reps, a week to prepare, a game plan that fits his play style, and let's see what happens. You know what I mean? At least those reps are valuable.
I'd say at bare minimum, playing the Kansas City Chiefs is not the week to make the move.
No.
Against Spagnuolo, so let's.
Yeah,
I mean, if you do wait just 1 week and he plays against Cincinnati, Cincinnati's defense is down. Although we did see DTR against Cincinnati's defense, it was with little to no prep time. So I think it's inevitable before the end of the season. I just don't know when they pull that trigger.
I'm confused by this. Hopefully I'm wrong, but with his skill set, if you're wrong, it's a pretty serious commitment. Browns fans want. What's a serious commitment?
3 games at the end of a lost season.
I'm not saying to play him next year, Doc. I'm saying just play him at the end of this season to get a look at him, give him a fair shake, give him some valuable reps.
But I do want to side with the Browns on this. I think that making him earn it's the right move. Don't just give it to him. And if he shows that he's ready for the moment, go ahead and let it rip.
Yeah, culturally, making him earn it is definitely the right thing to do. But yeah, like, I'm not saying that he's going to win the starting job next year. I don't think you're making any commitment to him other than, he's going to be in camp and he's going to get to compete to be the backup or whatever. But you've got to take as many swings at quarterback as possible in this situation. And this is one way you can take another one. Here's another, will only be a practice squad player in the NFL. Maybe so. But, like I said, you have to, I don't think we can determine that yet fully.
The range of outcomes is still wide open until he proves it otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, the basing, all these opinions are based off of what you've seen from 3 games, 2 of which he was thrown into starts, and 1 of which he was hurt halfway through, and he was playing pretty decent in that Denver game. So, I just think that he deserves a fair shake, and I think 2 games at the end of the year is well used on getting a better look at him, even if he ends up not being anything. Um, yeah. Is Jameis here next season? Connie is asking.
That's it. That's the other thing. Keep all of your options open.
Yep.
I definitely think he's one of the options. Obviously, there's things we need to cut down on, but there's an improper evaluation of him right now because you're literally not running the football. Like
None.
I know people are like, got to cut down the interceptions. Like I get you, and I can't defend pick sixes, but if you're asking a guy to drop back and throw it 58 times, mistakes will happen. I look more at the interception rate, which is for him is 3.3%, which is behind folks like Jordan Love and Kirk Cousins with interceptions every 3.4. You know what I mean? Like, what I need is a 2-to-1 ratio touchdown interceptions, and he's not there. But he's definitely an option, but you need to retool some things around him to get the best out of him. But keep all of your options open. If a better option becomes available, by all means, make the best move for the team. But I definitely think that you can win with Jameis Winston and giving him a full offseason as the guy. But once again, this is the DTR thing. Don't just hand it to him. Make him go earn it, So I'm not closing the chapter on it, but I it's among the options for sure.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be fair by giving him a start. I'm saying that I would just like to see more of him. I'm not trying to just be fair by it. I would like to evaluate him more at the NFL level. I don't think what we've seen is anywhere close to a big enough sample size to decide who he is as a quarterback. I mean, it takes rookies years. I mean, a year, 2 years to develop into the guy that you want him to be. 3 games. Yeah. I mean, come on.
That's the thing about the NFL now. They're not in the business of developing quarterbacks. It's like, these guys, short. You look at Anthony Richardson, like that dude's played a 10th of the snaps of DTR if you look at college. And, like they drafted him with a top 10 pick. I don't forget what he was taking, but, and they already pulled the hook on him once. It's very rare. And you're going to start seeing quarterbacks who played a lot of ball get more consideration. Just for that very fact, they don't develop.
Jason, you said I'm with Kate. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I want to see Jameis with a running game too. I've written about it 3 times. Yep.
Keep doing it. Fight the good fight, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I've written it 3 times. You have to give him a running game to consider. You have to surround him with the complementary aspects that make the quarterback position better than what it is now. The situation he's in now is not ideal for him mitigating the big turnover or the interception, right? You're just asking him to go win you games, and if you do that, you're gonna have turnovers, right? So why is the running game so broken, Doc? I mean, I have my opinions on it. I believe that currently, and this isn't a knock on Nick Chubb because he's not all the way back yet, but currently I don't think you have a very explosive running back or a very good running back spearheading your backs, but more so it's about the offensive line, which was brought in to run the wide zone, and then you changed this offseason your run concepts to the point where they're running like 69% between the tackles, where you're getting 0 push because your linemen were designed to be smaller and athletic in the wide zone. And now you're asking them to do something different, which the personnel doesn't match. The personnel doesn't match the concepts you're trying to run.
The only player that does is Wyatt Teller. He can maul. He can do pin.
He still hasn't performed very well.
I think he's okay. If I look at the right side of the line, I obviously will have concerns about Conklin's health long term, but he's playing excellent football. But from the center to the left tackle, that needs completely retooled, man. And philosophically too, because if you're going to stick with this type of running approach, like you said, man, you need movers. You need guys who can cave to the second level.
Anybody.
And you don't have that, So philosophical shift. I would prefer to go back to wide zone, to be honest with you. But a lot of the leagues run in duo. Like the league evolves running concepts, so it'll be a thing in a work in progress. But yeah, the offensive line gets zero push.
They changed the scheme because of they're going to be in shotgun more, Greg. Basically, right? Because they were accommodating to Watson, is why I believed you changed your coaching personnel and you want to change the run game scheme with that to marry it to the pass game. You can't run a lot of wide zone out of just sitting in shotgun all day and spread.
And it can work if you have an athletic enough quarterback to present a threat in the running game as well, because then you can catch people in that 50-50 mode. But when you have a standard drawback passer, that doesn't work. And if you can't, then if you have to get under center and you can't run under center, then you're telling on yourself. And then that leads to you're in this, like the NFL is a passing league, so you're always going to throw more than you run, but it needs to be like a 60-40 mix instead of this 80-20, 80-15 thing the Browns find themselves in, dropping back 60 times and the other team knows you're throwing it. Like that's just a recipe for mistakes and, turnovers.
Yeah, and I wrote this too. I said, you just have to, okay, so you're going to assess everything, right? Like everything's on the table. So you're going to assess your offensive line and this concepts that you have. And listen, speaking of Hard Knocks, and he should be here in any minute, but like Roy Estevan giving the speech, where's Dandy Dickerson?
So I heard a breakdown of this from an offensive lineman, and he was saying that in those meetings, basically your main offensive line coach will hand off to the assistant for some of the duties in those rooms, and that's what we were seeing in that moment. And it's typical that a quarterback sits in on those protection meetings, but man, that dude stole the show.
Yeah,
Roy Estevan stole the show. But I didn't see a clip of Dickerson talking at all, so I don't know if it was compelling.
I've not seen it.
Doesn't
Even
feel
seen
like it
his
was.
puffy head once. I don't think.
No.
But either way, Stephen, the NFL investigation has concluded, and it's officially over on Watson. That's your update. Nothing. Nada. No finding.
I'm to the point now where I can't give that dude any of my mental energy.
Nope. Not going to do it. Okay, so you evaluate everything, offensive line, you evaluate your coaching staff as well, because I think that has to be an aspect of this, right? With Dickerson, is he the right guy? Dorsey, is he going to be here? All these things. And then you say, okay, so this is what we want our identity to be going forward with the run game. All right. And then now we have to go make sure we have the coach to implement it. And this involves being multiple, in the run game. And then you have to, the most important thing you can do is match the personnel to that scheme. And that's where I think they failed, is the personnel does not fit what you're trying to accomplish. You have to get the right guys in place, or else you're not going to have success in the run game. And it has to be better. You have to foster a environment for whoever's going to play quarterback next year. He's not going to be a Hall of Famer. It's just facts. He's not going to be. He's either going to be a rookie or a vet, like
a journeyman,
a journeyman or whatever it is. So you have to foster an environment around him that allows him to have success, and that for me means, a remade offensive line and another weapon at the running back position. So even if you get Chubb back, I'm thinking like you want like Detroit set up, in their run game if possible. Like that's the ideal thing, right? David Montgomery, think of Nick Chubb, rejuvenated, and then another weapon there, because without doing that, I don't think you're giving yourself a real chance for this to work.
Yeah, a complimentary younger back with fresher legs and a different skill set.
Yeah,
that kind of fills in the blanks of what Chubb doesn't do. Tremendous draft to do so. That's what I would say, and
yeah,
you don't have to shoot high to do it. You don't have to get Ashton Genty to pull this off. There are plenty of running backs that'll be drafted on day 3 that'll be starters in this league, And I won't dig deep into the draft until we get past Christmas. But like I am definitely looking forward to watching some running back tape because I've seen some of these players and they flash and they have intriguing skill sets, and some of them are 220 pounds and they'll probably run in the 4.3s. They're explosive. So I think there's a good draft to do it. I also want to invoke a name before we get too far off task here, before we get joined by Ken Rodgers, and that is if whoever takes the job in New Orleans does not retain Clint Kubiak, bring that dude for an interview. Pretty please, at least bring him in. I want to. I would much rather go back towards what we were doing with a different scheme and angle on it. And Kubiak speaks Stefanski's language fluently, and he's been hanging out with Shanahan for 5 years. I would definitely like to kick the tires on that and see if we could possibly stoke up a marriage of those two.
Me too, brother. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to go back though. I don't know.
I'd feel more comfortable being closer to Stefanski's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
A new improved version of said offense, but
we have a wonderfully special guest here with us tonight, and he has been on my show many times. Ken Rodgers, the Emmy Award-winning documentary filmmaker with NFL Films, showrunner, and lead creative producer for HBO's Hard Knocks since 2007. He's directed 30 for 30 films on ESPN, such as Elway to Marino, Four Falls of Buffalo, The Two Bills, Dion's Double Play, Al Davis versus the NFL, Belichick and Saban, The Art of Coaching, and HBO's Bill Belichick, A Football Life, along with dozens of other film projects and various streaming partners with the NFL. Ken Rodgers. Ken, welcome back to the show. I know we've been doing this since 2018, since the Browns came on the first time. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. Love talking to Cleveland, always.
Yes, absolutely. Listen, this has been, 2 episodes in. This has been highly intriguing. The in season. We have a ton of questions. Casey, my co-host with me, he's going to have some questions for you as well. But, we started talking in 2018 when the Browns came on, and we've had you on several times since then. And a buddy of mine at our website said, ask him if he notices a difference between the building in 2018 and now.
I mean, I don't think things have been going the way anyone at the Browns want this season. So that sort of changes things. And there's a big difference between preseason, where hopes are eternal. Fresh on the arrival of Baker Mayfield, as to now, where we're starting at the very end of the season. So I would say there's certainly not the rose-colored glasses that we had in training camp that year. But I think the sort of commitment is still there. Some of the players are still there. Miles still looks like Miles. So, there's plenty of players who still represent the franchise well. I feel like this year feels like the downtime where things aren't going smoothly, but it's temporary. That's the feeling I sort of get. And that year, in 18, it was more like the beginning of an up. I think hopefully this is the end of the down. So maybe a little opposite, but I think positive altogether between the really both years, pretty positive throughout the building. And I think it's really hard to win in the NFL. You got to get everything perfect. Commitment is there. Results right now aren't.
Yeah, that's definitely the truth. Ken Rodgers, Emmy Award winning filmmaker with us and showrunner, creative director for Hard Knocks. I wanted to ask you this. So the in-season aspect is wild. So 4 teams. We've talked about before about some of the editing stuff, but like 4 teams worth of I got to ask you, that has to be just a daunting task to go through 4 teams worth of video. I mean, the video footage alone has to be unbelievable.
I don't know if you can tell, but I got bags under my eyes already, and it's only 2 weeks in. We got a long way to go, and I'm not working the hardest out of anybody. I can tell you that there's a lot of people working harder than I am. So I think we knew it would be a challenge, and I think it's an even bigger challenge than we imagined. It's not just the volume, it's the quality. You know, when you have that much material, getting it down and presenting it is one thing, but presenting it in an engaging way and making it clear what the storyline is when it's more than one storyline is pretty difficult. When they play each other, a little bit easier. You're knocking out 2 teams at once. And next week, or actually the week after, show 5, it's a double dip where it's the Battle of Ohio, the same time that the Ravens and Steelers are playing each other. And we're going to have this great, like, wow, that's a way to focus us story-wise. This week is completely different, where all 4 teams are playing out of division and all 4 storylines have to be told, right? But holy cow, that's 4 storylines in 50 some minutes. What do you do when you only have 12 to 14 minutes to tell the story of an entire week in the National Football League, including the game? Whew, there's a lot to get through. So it's doubly difficult compared to one team.
I can't imagine. Go ahead, Casey.
So I want to start off by saying, when I saw your accolades, man, you've directed some of my favorite 30 for 30s. And I love sports documentaries, but recently we've seen this trend of the subject of the documentary kind of being the person funding it. So you get like a self-serving documentary as opposed to something that's objective. So I just want to, commend you for what you've done for me, because I have enjoyed all of your work. I do want to say this. So what made you guys pivot to doing an entire division going into this end season?
We never really thought it through until it was practical, that the in-season version has a different set of stakes than preseason. Preseason is very player related. It's 90 people trying to make the team, and not all of them can. And it's a competition to see who's going to make the roster. And that gives you an end drama that we know when that's going to happen. It's going to happen at the end of the series, at the end of summer. This is a decision on camp, and you know how far away it is. In season, it's, well, we want to get to the playoffs, and then of course we want to go further in the playoffs. And when that doesn't happen, where's the drama? Yeah. There's still personal drama. These guys take it seriously, as we heard this week. In Cleveland, they're playing for jobs, playing for other people out there watching. But you will always, by doing a division, have a winner. We're going to have one team that wins this division. We might have 2 teams, possibly 3 teams, go to the playoffs. I mean, that is an ending, and then you can continue on. We really can't guess. We just didn't want to guess anymore and be with teams that, have been eliminated from playoff contention. And then where's the drama? And where's the fun? Because Hard Knocks is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be showing off the joy that these guys really do have for playing the game. So by picking a division, we up the stakes a lot. And of course, we picked a division that last year we said, what division would you do? Yes, we're going to do this division. And while it might not be all 4 teams fighting equally for the top of the division right now, we still think there's a lot of drama, because as the season comes to a close, we're going to have teams fighting for the division, and we're going to have teams fighting to be spoilers of the division. And that's just as interesting.
So you already answered one of my follow-ups is why the AFC North, but my secondary one is there a difference in level of access between teams when you're doing multiple teams like this, or is it pretty universal across the board?
It's always been universal. The only other time we did multiple teams was the COVID year. We did both Rams teams, both LA teams, Rams and Chargers. And that was equal. And we've seen almost exactly equal coverage this year. You can tell that the quarterbacks have been wired, the coaches have been wired, the robos are in the offices. We've spent less time with some teams and more with others just based on their schedule. The Ravens had a bye in show 2. So they had certainly less things going on when no one was in the building all week. It's equitable, if not equal. It doesn't necessarily – I don't think at the end of all the episodes you're going to look at it and say, oh, it's within a minute, all 4 teams. But it's going to be equitable in that I think the teams that don't have a storyline one week might have the biggest storyline the next week.
Yeah, it's disappointing for us Browns fans because when we heard it was coming out, all 4 teams we were like could be really good this year, and of course it's been a disappointing season. I did want to ask you, you've done a lot of work on Bill Belichick, and I don't know if you have like a personal relationship with Bill in doing, the work that you've done with him on the 30 for 30s and multiple films that you've done. But him deciding to take this job in North Carolina is really intriguing to me and a head scratcher. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I haven't, I do have, I think slightly personal, but definitely professional relationship with him. He's the greatest coach of all time. So, it's hard to ever feel like you're friends. Like, hey, I'm not worthy. What can I do to help tell the story of football? That's always been our job at NFL Films. But we've spent a lot of time together over the years. And the one thing I know that is involved in the answer of why he has gone where he's gone is that he loves football, loves teaching football, loves developing football players. And that's always been the very, very core of everything he's done. 49 years in the National Football League, it was always about teaching football, always about educating people about the game. He loves talking about football more than anyone I've ever met. And I've met plenty of football people, but it's a savant level knowledge combined with that interest that I'm not sure he'll ever get tired of it. And I don't know. I feel like this is a personal point of view, not his point of view. But if I were that age, I'd want to do what I want to do, not what everyone else thinks I should do. And so there must be, whatever the full answer is, a strong feeling of, I want to do this. I don't think there's any sort of advanced mathematics involved. This is a job that I'm going to enjoy. I like teaching. This would be an interesting challenge. I would like that. I get to develop things, a program, a club, a team, a system, a school, being part of that again. And of course there's a little bit of nostalgia in that his father coached there for, I believe, a season, and there's family links. Whatever the answers are, I can tell you that it was well thought out and it is pure. There's no spin going on in why he's doing this. He's doing it because this is what he loves and what he wants to do. I can almost guarantee you.
I wanted to, we have somebody in our chat with a really good question that I've never asked you before. But it's interesting. Connie asks, I want to know if the NFL has to sign off on an episode before you broadcast it, or are they seeing it for the first time as well on Tuesdays?
So when you ask, does the NFL have to see it? We are the NFL. And the NFL Films I am an employee of the National Football League. So
okay.
The NFL does see it because all of us making it, we are the NFL.
Okay.
The teams see it beforehand to sign off to make sure that we don't reveal competitive balance issues. You know, sometimes on a football field at practice, someone might say, give me the refrigerator, get the refrigerator. And, you know, we might be like, I don't know what the heck that means, but it might mean get the big guy like William Refrigerator Perry on the goal line. And if that were to be revealed, that if they yell refrigerator, that means a fullback plunge. Well, we just gave away a really big tip for a game. So we want the teams to watch and say, hey, what we don't want is to cause you any losses or anyone wins. We want to be neutral. So it's very important that that happens. And there's never really like, oh, I don't like the way I look. Can you get rid of that? I mean, these people have been around cameras their entire lives, especially the players now have grown up filming themselves on TikTok.
Yeah.
They're not afraid of being on camera. This generation is not like, whoa, get that camera away from me. They're like, yeah, camera. Hey, what's up? Like they're used to it. So approval process is really not a big deal. And at the National Football League level, when we're making it, you know, we know what the storyline is. Our goal is always, whether it's positive or negative, just be honest about it. Present the reality of what's happening. It's almost that feeling of if you don't try to spin or lie, you don't have to remember what your lies are. Like whatever is happening at the club, that's what we're going to show. Sometimes it's not great, but we're going to show that. We're not going to say everything's great if the season's going bad. We're not going to spin things. We're going to be honest, treat it with respect because we feel these players and coaches deserve respect, how hard they work. It's a really, really, really hard job at the top level of the sport. So we really concentrate on the truth, and that's where the approval process fits in. Is this accurate?
So basically, well, you guys are like mining for gold. You know, you're looking for these moments that you think are going to like really shine. And have you ever got to that point and thought you guys had some gold, and then like a team not sign off on something that you couldn't air?
No, I can't really remember that. In fact, going back to the very first year, one of the more recent 30 for 30s I did was the Bullies of Baltimore, which was the summer after they won the championship. They appeared on the very first Hard Knocks. And a lot of people were like, oh, you're going to find all the unused stuff, all the gems, all the great stuff that couldn't be used on Hard Knocks. And that was a show that I wasn't deeply involved in at all. Back in 2001, I had just started. So I was like, yeah, maybe everything that I found that was good
was already on there.
Was already on the air. I think a lot of people forget practice and watching film and training camp and film study. It's pretty dry. There's not a lot of goofing around on an NFL facility in season. Or preseason, really. There's a little bit more. You know, there's some fun times with players singing and stuff like that preseason. But in season, I mean, it's on to the next play. Let's watch this again. They don't waste time. I mean, there's jobs. There's millions of dollars on the line to win and lose. They're not going to like, hey, let's have a fun 20-minute conversation about Twinkies. Like, no. They're going to be studying. And so the tone is very serious. So there's not a lot that we're like, oh, we wish we could use this. We're hoping we get anything that's interesting beyond play calls, because really it's play call after play call after play call after play call.
What's that feeling like though? Like, so you're out there mining for gold and you find a moment that you feel is going to be electric on TV. I mean, do you still get excited after all these years doing this? And when you see something like, for Browns fans, that'll go back to the Jarvis speech. You know, the contagious speech. Like the first time you see that, like, oh, this is going to play. You know, like,
contagious, bro. It's contagious. It's contagious to us seeing things like that speech. It totally is, and you know it when you see it. That's the number one thing we talk about with our young producers. And we're mining through this 400 hours, and they say, "Well, how do I know if something's good?" And you say, This is how we say it to them. if someone came in the building from your life, this is all secret. You're not allowed to talk about this with anybody, of course. But if someone from your life came in and they said, "Oh, show me your favorite thing from today," what would you show them? Forget whether it makes good TV. Forget whether it fits into a storyline. Just what did you find interesting in your gut as a viewer? Because yeah, you're logging as a producer at NFL Films all this footage, but you're also a football fan and a viewer. And so we've had things that are obvious like that great moment, or we can have less obvious things like I remember I forget exactly what year it was. I think it might have been Houston, a quarterback in the quarterback room just whispering to himself the play calls: blue 42, hot, 1, 2, and doing and sort of walking through it in his mind. And someone brought it up like, yeah, this guy just talks to himself in the room. And I said, whoa, that sounds interesting. Yeah, it was really interesting, but I don't think we can use that. I said, no, let's take a look. And it became this moment of like, wow, you're really seeing something that no one else sees. And I'm reminded of that moment because it reminded me of Jameis this week in his bare feet practicing in front of the quarterback room doing it. That is a moment that is just interesting visually of like, whoa, what's he doing? He's standing up. He's going through the cadence. He's in bare feet. He's talking it through. He's mimicking. It's like that. That is something that I haven't seen. And therefore, I want to watch it. I trust that if I'm interested in it, the fans will be interested in it because that's who we are, fans.
That's awesome. I did want to ask you two things, and I'll go back to Casey. But the timeline that you guys are working on from Sunday to Tuesday, and the sheer amount of, like you just said, 400 hours or whatever it is that you guys are combing over. And I mean, that seems like such a time crunch. And how crazy is that for you guys?
I still believe it's probably the hardest show on television to produce. When you're live, when you do a game broadcast or anything that's live, you're making the decisions as you go. Go to camera 4, go to camera 3, go to camera 2. But when it's all recorded and you're trying to edit it in real time, not live, but into an edited series, you need a lot of resources. And there's an old axiom called the producer's triangle, where there's a triangle for every production, and at the 3 points are good, fast, and cheap. And you can only do a television show or movie with 2 of those 3. If you want it to be fast and cheap, it's not going to be quite as good as it could be if you had a lot of time or if you had a lot of money. And so we're always looking at, we want it to be good. That's one of the 2 always at NFL Films. And if you want it fast, it's not cheap. And cheap might be financial, but it's also people hours. You have to just throw a bunch of resources at it. If we had 6 months to edit these episodes, the fast was out the door, we could probably do it with 10 producers. But we need it in a week. And so we have 35 to 40 producers every week working on it, probably 125, 130 people all around the building working on it at all times. And that's the non-cheap aspect of it. You have to make a decision. The way to do it is to do it the way we do it, as good and fast as it is you just have to spend the resources. And luckily NFL Films has those resources, robust production facility full of passionate people who are willing to stay up all night and work through these hard knocks of their own in order to get the show on.
That's awesome. I love that aspect of it. Is so cool. All right. So the coming in to, you know, coming into where you're at in the season, where each team is at, record wise. In this division, you have 4 coaches that have been around for a minute, which is different than a lot of divisions where you would have maybe a new coach in the building, but they all have some sustained time in their cities. All 4 coaches have great sound bites. Mike Tomlin seems to steal the show, of course, right? He's terrific. He's so good. But do you come in with any predetermined, so I was watching the second episode, and there was the storyline on Porter, and then his dad, obviously, right? Was that like something that you guys, or is there like a list of potentially predetermined storylines that you come in with, like, okay, so we know that this story line on Porter would make an interesting thing because of his dad, and here he is with Tomlin in this one-on-one that's interesting. This would be a great place to do a feature on him and his dad.
Yeah, there's I wouldn't say it's a short list. It's a little long, but there's a short list of stories that we know we're at least very interested in. And we go into the season with that list. And then it kind of divides once we start shooting. About a third of that list works out exactly as we planned. And we pat ourselves on the back and go, we knew it. We knew Joey Porter and his dad was going to be a great story. A third of them just never come around. The storyline doesn't develop. It's just that player isn't having a big impact on the team. There's just something missing. It doesn't work out. And you're like, well, we were wrong. And we don't pat ourselves on the back. And then a third of the show comes from things we could have never predicted.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't have known, what's going to happen in games for sure. But heroes show up and injuries happen. And a third of every episode isn't known until it actually happens every week. And we're like, oh, well, I get that might be in the show. I mean, we don't know what speeches people are going to give. Mm-hmm. We don't know what, what's going to happen in that quarterback room when Jameis does that. We don't know that, Garrett's going to have a cough. Like those things we find interesting, and we only find them interesting once we see them. Yeah. So it really is, we plan as much as we can, knowing that 2/3 of the plan will go away, and we're going to have to deal with that and find replacements. Because what we often do is just say, what's the best hour of television? Forget what you wanted the best hour to be. We didn't get that. What did we actually get that's the best hour? And that's what you have to edit the show with.
So cool. Casey?
So with this particular end season, what's your travel schedule like? Or are you able to do most of your work from a central location?
Yeah, so I'm completely at NFL Films in southern New Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia, as is our whole editorial staff. So there's a good 100 people back in New Jersey. We're always working on the show year round to turn it into a television show. And then our capture team, they went ahead and put all the robos in, weeks or sometimes months ahead of time in all the facilities. And we have crews at all 4 crews, directors, production coordinators, another, 40 to 50 people out on the road at all times. And there's not a lot of moving around. We kind of do it on a weekly basis of here's the crews and directors who are going to live in Cleveland this week. This is who we have in Cleveland. That's it. We're not going to change up. So we have 2 great directors out in Cleveland. Kaylee Campen, who is the daughter of an NFL coach and has been producing with us for a decade now on many Hard Knocks. And Mercedes Jameson, a young stud that we stole from another company, and they're I wouldn't say they're living there, but there's very few days where they take a day or 2 and come back. It is a full on move into all 4 towns for a small select group of people. and then a complete army back at NFL Films in South Jersey.
So you're doing with like a lot of alpha personalities, right? But you started in 2007 with Hard Knocks, and social media really wasn't a thing. YouTube was, in its infancy. Have you noticed a difference in the comfortability of these athletes to talk on camera from then till now?
Yes, very much so. I remember in 2007, Tony Gonzalez, who was on the Chiefs that year, looking at us on day one and saying, "You better keep that camera away from me." And I think the implication, maybe perception, was that will distract me. I'm great because I'm so dedicated. And I think over the years, people have realized that actually we're not going to disrupt you at all. Yeah. The wires that we pick up sound at your practice are sewn into your jersey and pouches that we sew into every single jersey on the team. And in a minute pre-practice, it can be set up and be on your jersey so that you don't even know. You just arrive at your locker. They're alerted that they're going to be wired that day, but they don't have to sit and have somebody, work it through. Your routine is your routine. When you get to your locker, your jersey is already mic'd. You just put it on and go out like you normally would. It's the same with the robos. That's why we shoot robos. We don't ask people, "Hey, can you come in the room again?" Hey, we're getting it. We're getting it as it is. And I think people have learned that our goal is not to have them change anything. We don't want them to acknowledge the cameras. We will tell the story editorially based on what actually happens. We're not going to say, "Hey, what would be good? Why don't you go give a pep talk to your squad over there?" Like, no, if they don't do that, then that's not going to be on the show. If they do it, it could make the show. And I think it's been passed around the league that that's the goal. I think a lot of people are much, much more comfortable with the show than early on because they realize that there's no directing involved when it comes to their actions. The directing is for the cameras, what the cameras are capturing and where they're turning to get things. But the players don't have to do anything out of the norm.
Yeah, it comes across as tremendously authentic. So you guys are doing an amazing job, and it's been incredibly entertaining. Of course, us fans of the Browns wish they were better this year, but still telling a story like in episode 2. I thought it was really interesting. You guys showed them, breaking down Stefanski breaking down the play where they're at the top speeds on the last play of the game, right?
That tells you about the people. It tells you about Stefanski, who's pointing that out to keep everyone engaged and motivated. It tells you about the mentality in the building, and it tells you in general about what this job is like in the National Football League. Wow, these guys are still doing that. Heck, that they haven't had a good season so far. They're playing the Chiefs, who are the best team in the league. You think that they're laying around saying, "Oh boy, this is going to be a tough one"? No, they're planning an upset. There's a lot of pride in the National Football League, a lot of pride in the Cleveland Browns organization, and we're going to make sure we're accurate in showing that these guys are professionals. There's going to be no laying down to the very end. I've never seen it even in the very worst seasons. They really are playing for pride, for future jobs, for current jobs. Heck, for their legacy. You never know in the NFL when your career's over. You don't want to half dog it, in any moment of your career.
Yeah. Great speech from Shelby Harris too on that exact topic. So
fantastic
stuff. It was almost like, and it was interesting in the moment in watching that speech, the way he just kind of drifted off after saying that. It was very cinematic, but it was authentic. He just it was like he was almost like reflecting on it, like, and he kind of like went into like his own like thinking about it himself. It was really it was a great moment. But Ken, thank you for your time. Amazing as always. You are truly a genius, and all your works are tremendous. Anything we can look forward to in the future? I saw I think Casey pointed out there's something coming out down the line you want to promote.
Tomorrow night is the premiere of my 9th 30 for 30 film called The New York Sack Exchange, about Mark Gastineau and the guys in the New York Jets of the 80s. So
that's what it was.
Okay, so when that dust up happens between Favre and Gastineau this week, that's got to be good pub, right?
Well, that's part of the film. That is a clip from the film. So yes, that's why it's out there, is because it happened in front of my eyes at a card show in Chicago. We were filming Mark Gastineau, and I said, "Oh, he's walking up the Favre, and wait, what is go? What? Oh." And it was as genuine moment as you can get, and understandable from Mark's point of view. It was a real, just like, okay, that's authentic. That is, and we try to show that. And it's really, when you see it in the context of the whole film, you'll see it's really about how these guys on the Sack Exchange, who didn't get along with each other, let alone other players, they're still in this process of letting go and forgiving each other. And it's really a portrait of how difficult it is for men who work together to get along, to forgive each other, to express their emotions. These are 4 really interesting guys, and I think you'll recognize yourself in one of them for sure. Who knows which one? But the New York Sack Exchange is tomorrow at it's 8 Eastern on ESPN, and then ESPN Plus. And Hard Knocks is going to continue as long as the team in the AFC North is alive. So I hope that's all the way through the Super Bowl, whoever that team may be.
I didn't realize that. That is amazing. You guys are following them into the play. That is awesome. Very cool. Ken Rodgers, Emmy award-winning documentary filmmaker with NFL Films. Ken, you're so gracious with your time and with me, and you always get back to me, and I appreciate it. And you're such a nice man for doing this. So we thank you so much for your time.
Listen, NFL Films is dependent upon the great fans that love our work. Keep watching. We really appreciate you.
We appreciate you, Ken. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Ken Rodgers. Amazing stuff, Casey. Tremendous stuff.
I could have asked him so many questions.
I know, right?
Yeah, I don't eat up all this time. But
I know.
I told him 7:30
to 8.
Did you see that thing between Gastineau and Favre?
I haven't seen it.
Super awkward. So Favre gave up the record to Strahan when he laid down on that sack back in the day, and he took a dive basically, and took the record from Gastineau to Strahan, and Gastineau was holding some resentment, and he just he came up, Brett came up to kind of shake his hand, and Gastineau's like, "I want my sack back," and Brett thinks he wants to sack him. He's like, "Oh, I think you'd hurt me." He kind of caught Brett with one foot off the merry-go-round. He didn't. But Gastineau was emotional, and it was a moment, man. It's crazy. Yeah. That was awesome.
That's I didn't realize. I did see that somewhere. The New York Sack Exchange, but I didn't know
that's awesome.
The background on it.
Well, I know what I'm doing tomorrow night, 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Connie, thank you. Great question, Connie.
It was a great question, Connie.
Yeah, it was a great question. Yeah, so that was so cool. Thanks. Yeah, he's awesome, and the behind the scenes stuff is wild with that. Just to think about it, but I mean, you can just tell, and he gets it, right? You have to be like a football guy and get it to be able to think okay, you would think. I thought it was really interesting him talking about the directing aspect of it. We don't direct anything. We're trying to stay out of the way as possible.
Shooting here, I'm shooting
as authentic as possible, right? And then you think about other reality shows where stuff is staged and things, you know what I mean? Sure. And conversations are set up. And I think somebody said it in the chat, Connie, once again, having a good night in the chat. It's not reality TV. It's just reality. And it's very
Gold Star, Connie. Gold Star.
Yeah. Very good stuff. Very.
I hate there at the end because I felt torn. Because he's like, it's going to go on as long as someone's alive. I'm thinking, I hope this shit ends in the divisional round then.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? But I like the guy. I want to see him do his thing.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. I did not know that. I didn't know that.
No, same here. I thought it was going to be a 6-week thing, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a cool idea. I'm glad that the AFC North was the first division they did it with, and I hope it does well and they're able to keep doing that for the end season because I think it's more intriguing than just following one team end the season. But it's a lot of work. You got teams of people working in shifts. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. People move into the city and then, like you said, basically living at the facility. I mean, that's crazy. It was the Giants, right? That were the preseason.
Yes, or they were the off season. They did an off season one, so it was them during free agency, and that wasn't even
training camp.
No.
Did they do a training camp one this year?
No, it wasn't Arizona. It was the Colts. Is that right?
Colts.
Maybe not. No, Colts were in season last year. Yeah, the Giants were this weird, like, I could have asked. I don't know, man.
I should have asked, but the Giants, from talking to people, and I didn't watch the Giants one at length.
I didn't watch the link, but I watched a few episodes. Oh, no, Detroit was when Aiden was a rookie.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. There's so much. But I'll say this. Their job, because if you think of when Hard Knocks started, we didn't have behind the scenes access to anything. You were kind of so that was our first, as fans, that was our first window into like behind the scenes stuff was Hard Knocks, and they were able to do that. And they actually went away for a bit. I don't know if you remember, and they came back with Cowboys. But I wonder if that job's harder now, just because we now have access. We now have social media. Each team has their own content team that films stuff. You know what I mean? So I just wonder if
it does like a version of Hard Knocks.
Yeah. They said they're the template. They're the gold standard, man. Like,
yeah, but they do it like in, like at least the Browns, and I'm sure every team, they do it in a much more positive.
Just there's the lens we want you to see it in. And
it's not authentic, like just here's what it is, right? So, yeah, I guess. But the Giants one, I guess, didn't show them in a very good light. I guess was my.
They said some dumb things, man. Like
there was some dumb stuff going on in his front office, right?
Yeah, the GM,
the Saquon thing.
Saquon wasn't going to offer him a contract, and then made statements like, "We're not paying Daniel Jones X amount of million to hand off to a $15 million running back," and it's like maybe you should have done that. But it was cool to see that process, because we've never seen the off-season stuff, the free agency, draft build-up, going to the combine. That's something we hadn't seen until that. So I hope they keep it all up, man. Excellent work.
Yeah, good stuff.
And great job out of you, Brad.
Of course,
huge
man.
get. Huge
always. Get. Yeah, and he's entertaining in himself. Good stuff.
Yeah, I'm selfish, and I felt like just squeezing in there. He's because he works at NFL Films in South Jersey.
Yeah.
Can I get a tour?
Yeah.
Like for a football nerd like me, going to the NFL Films facility, I'd be like a playground.
So on one episode a couple of years ago, he was on, and we got into a conversation about the Sable family, right? Yeah. And he was really, really close with them, and that was like his mentor. So
I just wonder if you walk in and hear John Facenda's voice over loudspeakers.
I know, right?
The autumn wind is a raider. Like, you know what I mean?
I know. Well, Liev Schreiber, who does Hard Knocks,
the voiceover.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like him at all. Or do you hear him?
No, there's another. So UFC does all their countdown shows, and they use Ron Perlman, and you don't know it's Ron Perlman. Like, to me, Ron Perlman's very distinct, right? And he's the guy doing it, but it didn't sound like it. Liev Schreiber is very similar in that way.
Yeah.
Just the way they're able to alter their.
I'm a big fan of him as an actor. Ray Donovan.
Ray Donovan's excellent.
Excellent show. But I don't know if he does an accent in that show, or, I mean, it's weird because, like, I think of him in Ray Donovan's role generally, but in some other movies too. He was just in a movie about a murder called The Perfect Couple, and he played the husband, right? And he, I guess I'm trying to think. I still can't recognize his, like, it doesn't sound like it does on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Weird.
I'm not trying to get too far off topic, but Liev Schreiber's got tremendous range because I've seen that dude play like a pushover and then like the hardest human being. You know what I mean? Like that guy's always liked his work.
That's cool, Chef. It's awesome. Yeah, so that's wild. Can you imagine NFL films like just the just
the library
amount of footage, the library of footage they have in there.
All the stuff they can no longer show because of CTE lawsuits.
The hit, like greatest hits of all time. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah. Huge part of my childhood, man. I would never change the channel if NFL Films came on.
Yeah. So, the New York Sack Exchange.
Yeah, Joe Klecko, Mark Gastineau.
This is just 4 guys on the defensive line.
Gastineau had a 6-season span where he had just shy of 100 sacks. One of the most impressive runs. The only person with a better run in that 6-year span would have been Reggie White.
Wow, because Miles is coming up on he's a half sack.
What, a half a sack? Is he a half a sack or a sack and a half?
Half now.
He'll be the youngest player to get 100 if he can knock that out this season.
Yeah, which he should.
Yeah.
Interesting answer to the question about 18 Browns. I get what he's saying, though. It'd be hard to evaluate like the rose-colored glasses of the preseason to in the throes of a 3-10 season. I was going for the
competency of the Yeah, me too. That's because we're in the bubble. So like just that question at face value is different for him because he came in at a seminal moment of like Baker's rookie years versus coming in when we were 3-10,
Yeah. And then
that's the way I read it. It was, and you wanted to hear that we're way more competent now than we were with Hugh Jackson.
Which they have to be, right?
Oh, they are, but like you want to hear that validation.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. It's like, oh yeah, it's ran so smoothly now,
I should ask about
the
first time you seen Bob Wiley's gut move when he said "hut." Did you know? Did you know that was going to work?
Did you know that was gold?
It was gold.
It was.
He's an awesome guest, man.
Yeah, that was fun. All right, so Jameis is going to play this week. I mean that's firmed up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Jameis is the guy this week.
Where are you at? This is the question I want to ask before we go tonight. Where are you at with him and next year? Like the Browns are going to have to make this decision.
Yeah. There's a lot of angles, man.
The Pittsburgh game. I think you can point to the second Pittsburgh game as kind of a it wasn't. He looked uncomfortable.
I would rank it as the second worst game. I think he looked way more comfortable against the Chargers. He was still able to get stuff done, find answers. But so there's a pivotal moment in that game where like the Steelers, for the love of God, kept you in that game. They tried to keep you in that game. So you're up down 27-14, and Isaiah McGuire makes a hell of a play. Literally stands up, Freiermuth, takes on a pulling Zach Frazier, strips the ball, Miles gets it, gives you life. He immediately throws a pick. I mean, 2 plays later, that just the air came out, those are those moments. Like at 3 and whatever, it's like, okay, you weren't winning anyway. But if you were in contention and that same sequence happens, you feel different about it. You feel like it's more damning, and he drove a ball, and he didn't back down from the decision to throw it afterwards. He said it was a good throw. I want to defend you here, buddy, but that was
not the throw.
Unless that's a 6'6" guy, it's Elijah Moore, man.
It's Elijah Moore. It's got to be open and it's got to be pinpoint. And
this to the point earlier, when you're throwing, when everyone knows you're going to throw, you're playing your safeties back. You're looking for those tip and overthrow moments to capitalize, and drove it too hard. So
and it's like I don't have a problem with like the choosing to go there, but it has to be nails.
Gotta be on them.
And but as Romo pointed out, who was god awful in the game, what happened to him?
Got too high on his own supply, man. He came in blazing that first year, predicting all these plays. He was the new thing.
But that's like a carnival trick. Okay, great.
And most NFL quarterbacks could do that based on formational and situational awareness. And I mean, I'm not trying to. I can usually dictate a lot of those things myself. He was doing it at a very high level when he first came in, and it caught people by surprise because Aikman doesn't do that. That's not, you know what I mean. So it's just a different style. And people are like, oh, he's the next thing, and he's with Nance, who's like the kind of the gold standard of play-by-play.
I don't know, Jim. Here we go, Jim.
But it got old quick, I would say. And then it almost sounds like he's drinking during telecast.
It does.
Because the longer it goes, the more it gets like that.
The worse, and he repeats himself. Have you
noticed
that?
I'm going to give you guys a little secret into my life. There are certain announcers your boy mutes, and that's one of them.
Yeah, man.
I don't do that. I'll try to sync up the local broadcast, which I didn't even do. I literally watched that one on mute.
Yeah, man.
I also didn't watch it live, though. So that probably had a lot to do with it.
Yeah. But he repeats himself. Like he says, like if he doesn't get Nance to like
cosign,
say anything, he'll just keep saying it in a different way. And I'm like, dude. Yeah, but I mean, in the whole, here we go, Jim. That's just, that novelty is worn off.
Off. All this shit's worn off, man.
But like he was right about that play on the live broadcast. He pointed out that Jerome Ford was wide open on the check down. You take the 10 yards. And
Jameis admitted that later too, that in that moment you don't go broke taking a profit,
No.
But when you're down 2 touchdowns, you're trying to get everything back. You're trying to.
I get it.
And that gets the better of you, man.
It would have been a big hit too, but you take the 10 yards.
Yeah.
Take the 10.
I don't know. They felt more pressure because you had that one situation where you had it to like 4th and manageable and you're going to go for it. And then if Eddie has the penalty, takes you all the way out. You end up punting. You went from like 4th and 2 to like whatever it was.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous. It might have been like 3rd and 1 and then you end up with like 4th and 20 or something, but you end up punting. And then that play happens where McGuire gets the ball back for you. And, I get the instinct to want to make a big play right there, but like that's. So some of these decisions he's making are, I'm not gonna call them egregious, but like, you get too greedy and the other team knows you're throwing the ball, man. It's going to be risky.
Yeah.
But I need to see more sound decision making. But I also am realizing you're playing from behind and you're in these situations where everyone knows you're going to throw it. Well, I know you're going to throw it. The announcers know, the fans know, the other team definitely knows. It's just hard to have success in those moments. And I would love to see him get an opportunity playing from 50-50 with a running game and full complement of stuff.
That's exactly it. Here we go, Jim.
Here we go, Jim.
Here we go, Jim.
I don't know, Jim.
I don't know, Jim. Can you do it?
Brady's not good. Like, we are not in the golden age of announcers right now. No, Olsen's the best one, I think.
I would rather listen to Brady than Romo, though.
He just has obvious things. It's weird because I know he talks. I know he knows ball on a crazy level because I've heard him conversationally talk football.
He's dumbing it down, but he's dumbing it down too far.
You're on camera, and I think he feels a pressure to be likable and just say things that don't rub people the wrong way. But like, Aikman will go in on people now. I think he's gotten like Aikman's past all that.
Aikman's good.
Aikman will go in on people. Yeah. He's not worried about making friends.
No.
I like Olsen. I like Aikman. It's very limited though. The announcing teams that I get down with.
It is. All right, so let's talk about this real quick. I'm gonna address this tomorrow night on things I think I know as well. But where you at with Hopkins and what's going on with him? I mean, so here's yeah. I hate talking kickers, but if you want to frame it, this is how you can frame it in the worst way possible. Okay, you drafted a kicker in Cade York.
Yeah,
he didn't work out. with like a what 5th round pick,
Fourth,
fourth, even worse. You drafted a kicker with 4th round pick. He didn't work out. You traded for a replacement, more draft capital, a 7th or whatever, right? And 7th. He
totally
was
worth
part
that
of
7th in that vacuum of that season.
Yes.
Then you overextend yourself.
But then the magic, the magic was great. He was amazing. But then you sign him to an extension, and now you put Cade York's numbers this year, and he's doing better than him.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
Look, man, some regression should have been expected. He was so lights out last year. And we're talking about a player who, through his career, which was 7 seasons going into last year, was a 50% kicker from over 50 yards. He was 8 of 8 last year. So it's okay to expect some regression, but we're talking about a guy who's a lifetime 86% kicker going into that. He's 10 points below, like the regressions dipped below the average before he even got to Cleveland to have the amazing time. You know what I mean? So,
like an autumn wind.
John Vicinda, dude, that is R.I.P. man. That's one of the most classic voices in human history.
Yeah.
Buttery voice that man had.
Buttery. Yeah. So,
but where am I at?
Here's the thing. Yeah, he's a kicker, right? But like,
they
brought in another guy. You're not in the games. They don't matter. I mean, they matter, but they don't. In the grand scheme of things, like if you're gonna be bad, now's the time to be bad. If you're gonna have the yips, now's the time to yips. But like people are like, oh, there it is, right there. MC just said another AB miscue. Oh, okay, all right, well, whatever. It's $2.1 million. Give me a break. If they have to cut him next year, they cut him. Case who gives a shit? It's $2.1 million. I don't care.
What's the conversation like if they don't re-sign him and they walk away from a guy who just had an insane year? They're like, that's a no-win situation. Are you supposed to like he had an insane year last year? Everyone can agree upon that.
Yes,
he was amazing. He won games. He set NFL records.
Yes.
Last year, 5 games in a row kicking 50-yard field. No one's ever done that in the history of a 100-year-old league. So if you don't re-sign that guy, they're like, you don't even want to win.
And I get it. Like kicking is fickle.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful. You probably should. Like I'm getting to the point in my life where I don't want to ever draft a kicker, and I don't really ever want to sign a kicker to an extension.
I don't want to overextend myself with a kicker. Here's the other thing too, and like I am not in camp keep Bubba Ventrone, but to blame this part on Bubba Ventrone's asinine. He's not teaching Hopkins how to kick. He's not being like, well, your plant foot's here. Like it's like a golf swing. These guys have private instructors. They've been doing this since whenever, and he's whatever's happened. Like, and I can't allow a kicker to bring you down. You said it. You're 3-10. You're not in competition. I'm not really. I don't know that that's 100% true. Lost us.
What games has he lost us?
He's not helped a couple of games. I'll give you that.
He hurt us badly in this Pittsburgh game because they would have been in it later. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's necessarily lost us a game.
Yeah. And last year he won us games. I get re-signing him. I get the logic. And like you said, it's $2.1 million to us. It'd be life-changing to the NFL organization. It's like it's changing the couch.
Like, yeah. So but you give him the offseason, if he can't, if it appears it's the yips or whatever, but if he can't correct it, they're gonna fire him and go with another kicker.
Yes.
So
1,000,000%.
Which still puts winning at the forefront. Like
I hear he wants to piss me off, he'll draft a kicker, and that'll be pissed off again.
But I hear all these people saying, "Oh, they're not even putting winning at the forefront because they won't fire him now, and bring in another kicker." No bullshit. It's smart to let him have the offseason to try to get it right, and if he doesn't get it right, then you can cut him and you take the cap hit. But it's not massive. It's not going to make a difference.
It isn't like he's out there spraying. It's like literally these are all going left. Like there is something fundamentally wrong with his approach right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's kicker. It's a replaceable thing. If you can't get it fixed, you replace him. They brought in Riley Patterson yesterday or today. I can't even remember. But
I'm aware of the numbers, Doc. Yep, I'm aware of the numbers. But okay, so the 8.3 million guaranteed at signing. The majority of that was given to him in a signing bonus. A bonus. Signing bonus. So what's left on his deal, if you look at Spot Track, is he will make he is guaranteed $2 million next year, and then if you you can take the out after that. So if you cut him next year, you're gonna take a hit on $2 million.
But whoever you pay to bring in, you're only paying like a couple $100,000.
Like a couple $100,000. So it's not a big deal. Yeah. It's not going to impact. Like
they're not going to allow $2 million to like we can't cut him. We pay him $2 million. He sucks.
You're not going to have a player that they can't go get because of the signing, the extension that they gave this fucking guy.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
But I did to the list of things that we thought we knew, things that we thought were like good, foregone conclusions. Like this defense will get better in the red zone. Like there were certain things we went into the season. We're going to be good at home. We got a solid
went the
kicker.
Other way.
You know what I mean? Like there was a group of things that were like Emerson's ready to take that next step. There were certain things that we just banked on that didn't come to fruition, and that's the season now. Add it to the list, baby.
Last topic. What do you want to do with Newsome? 13 point whatever million. We talked about this last night. I got Pete's take on it. I want to get yours.
I don't know that I necessarily have a take on it. I don't celebrate injuries, but am I glad that we get to see Cam Mitchell and Miles Harden for the final 4 games? Yes, I am.
Too. Sign me up.
Yes, I am. I'm happy we get to see that now, and maybe they can show you something of a glimpse, and maybe you can trade Newsome. I don't feel like Newsome's in the long-term plans, but like this is so finicky.
Trade him
because we're a bad concussion away from Denzel. Not even, like all this is fleeting. And he's not terrible. You spend a first-round pick, so maybe you want him to be better. I have no issues with it. I have issues with his tackling. For a nickel cornerback, I need my nickel cornerback to be a physical presence, to be a tackler. He's not. I think he's more suited towards the outside. But he's been playing inside so long now. Could he even go back out full-time? I don't know. But it's so finicky in the cornerback room, which is another thing. We came into the season, to me, that was a tremendous strength. Denzel's played excellent when he's on the field. But I also know that's a thin line between him being on the field and him not being on the field. So everything's up in the air. I'm thankful we get to see Cam Mitchell and Miles Harden. That's where I'm at with it right now today.
All right. Me too, but I wanted to just go this. And Pete may pointed this out last night, but Newsome, PFF's grades on corners are wonky.
I've never thought their secondary grading is awesome. Never.
Yeah, it's not good.
I've always complained about it.
But all right, so he makes like $4 million this year. He's going to 13.7 next year.
I thought it was 0.7. Okay.
0.1.
Yeah. That means fifth-year option.
Yeah, fifth-year option.
Can we have this conversation real quick? That has been a blind spot so far for AB. He hasn't had a lot of them because he's only had 2 first-round picks, but he's, in my opinion, I don't think that Jedrick Wills should have been on the 5th-year option. Either I don't think that's
in retrospect, but at the time I understood it.
Yeah, and there's one of those hindsight things, process first results. But we're 2 first-round picks in that he's given this to, and we've because you have to make that decision before the 4th year begins. But then after the 4th year's over, we've kind of regretted it before the 5th year even kicked off.
I don't regret this one. Because I think, and I'll explain in a second. All right, so let's just go over his career, okay?
Yes.
Up until this season, he's had a decent career. I mean, 32nd out of 120 whatever corners as a rookie, 68.1 grade. In 22, 34th out of 100 and some corners, right? 69.1 grade. And that's when he moved inside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he somehow graded out better than his rookie year, which he had a tremendous rookie year, if you recall, playing outside. In his 3rd year, last year, He was 55th, 66th grade, but now he's playing both in and out, which is tough to do.
Yeah.
I thought he
Agreed.
had a good year last year, despite the dancing. I thought he had a pretty good year. He had a bad playoff game, but
Yeah.
outside of that, I thought he was pretty good. This year, he is
He got hoed in
103rd.
Denver. I can think of instances, not saying overall it was bad, but I can think of instances where I was disappointed in his
I'm
play.
saying body of work.
Yeah.
Body of work.
Yeah.
But
he doesn't tackle well enough for me to be hype on.
well,
here's nickel.
Here's what gives you value with him. And what they did last year is they stopped asking him to play that same run role like a linebacker. Remember that whole conversation, right? Okay. So PFF ranked this year 103rd out of 118. So major drop off.
That's bad, Brad. That sounds like bad numbers.
52.2. Now I'm not compared to his first 3 years. That's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not like I didn't see that big of a difference between this year and prior years. You know what I mean? Like he's had good moments at times this year, and he's had some iffy moments. I think he's a smarter player. Like he's never really involved in the coverage busts and stuff. Like I think he communicates well enough. But he played 250 snaps this year in and 250 out. That's what gives you value.
Wow.
So like because Denzel is hurt all the time, and because
that's where I'm at.
Emerson is hurt all the time, he provides you an answer on the outside that I think he plays outside corner probably better than he does even inside.
Yes, that's where I'm at. He's playing nickel, and I think he's an outside guy. And I still think it's a good fit for him.
Exactly, world's fast. His flexibility is an asset, but like
not gonna be shitty inside though.
Right, I know. But at times he's not shitty. At times he's not shitty. At times
does it hurt him though that his drop off this year comes at the same time that Emerson's regression happens?
Does it hurt him?
Yeah, because like just as the room as a whole, dude. Because like there's a large enough sample size of Martin Emerson's first 2 years that I believe that's who he is. I'm refusing to believe that this player that he's played like this year is who he's going to be going forward. But his regression's real.
Because I think he's hurt, and I expect Emerson to bounce back.
Me too. But given the things I expected going on into this season, it was chief among those. That Emerson was going to be a lockdown dude and reach that next level.
I wanted to be giving him an extension this offseason.
Hopefully they believe the same things we believe.
You can't now, though. You have to see it
Make
again.
Him play it. Make him prove it. Yeah.
So,
unless you're privy to stuff, but then they're telling on themselves because he's not been on the injury report.
Yeah, I don't. That's tough. I don't
know.
Yeah. But either way, so Pete brought up this interesting angle last week is that, well, first of all, I saw your question, DeAndre, and Miles Harden should play this week.
They're talking as if they're expecting him back this week. He was, returned to practice from being on the IR.
So, I don't know if he'll play, but he'll be available.
I think he will if Cam Mitchell's getting that run. It'd be nice to have him as the backup in there.
Right. Yeah, he'll back up Cam Mitchell, but I want to see Cam Mitchell play too.
Yeah.
Like we haven't seen enough of him this year to make any kind of a real judgment. So I'm
worried though.
You're worried about Cam?
Yes.
Why?
Inside slot fade, Xavier Worthy. I just see it on a platter this week.
I mean, that's tough.
It's tough. This is a tough week to get your first start, and they're going to just rotate Xavier Worthy into slot.
Yeah, and
here's the slot fade against the fastest human we've ever had in the NFL.
that is a tough assignment. But yeah, I'm anxious to see him play because I actually like Cam Mitchell and what he did last year.
He does the dirty stuff. He does the stuff I like out of nickels. You know what I mean. That's when
physical.
That just might be my old school approach to like nickel cornerback, and maybe they play.
No, I'm with you. A nickel should be a son of a bitch.
I need a feisty dude out there causing trouble.
mouthing off and hitting people and just a son of a bitch of a player, that's annoying. The guy that if he's on your team, he pisses you off in practice because he's just all over,
Yep.
That guy.
A pain in the ass. Be that for me.
All right. All right, let's get out of here. What a great show tonight.
Great show, man.
Tell
chat,
a friend.
Great job out of you.
Great job, chat. Chat, you guys were awesome tonight. Great conversation. Great appearance from Ken Rodgers. Make sure you turn into Hard Knocks. Tune into Hard Knocks. Don't turn into it. Tune into Hard Knocks on Tuesday nights if you have HBO or Max.
Tomorrow night, ESPN, ESPN Plus, York Sack Exchange, man.
Yep. And then I wanted to, and so real quickly, we're doing this because, make the connection here. If you're over on the video channel, we need to get you to the website. If you're at the website, we need you to get to the video channel. If you're watching an Orange and Brown Report production, listen, as this season comes to an end, there are a ton of critical decisions that are to be made with the season, free agency, draft, all that stuff that face the Browns. The OBR will be working contact sources to provide you the most up-to-date and exclusive information, along with in-depth analysis, film review from Sam and others, draft profiles and evaluations, as well as the best salary cap breakdown and explanation around from Jack Duffin. So be a part of the best Browns community going. The OBR.com is offering an annual subscription or VIP subscription for 50% off right now over at the OBR.com. So stay locked in year round at the OBR or the Orange and Brown Report, and click on the link in the description below, or just go to the OBR.com. We appreciate you guys. Connie, you were awesome tonight. Everybody was awesome tonight in the chat. Thank you, Casey Kinnamon. Make sure you follow Casey at Casey_Kinnamon. For everybody over at the website, big thanks to Ken Rodgers, Emmy Award-winning film and documentarian, filmmaker, documentarian, and showrunner, creative mind behind Hard Knocks, for coming on our show here at All Eyes on Cleveland. My name is Brad Ward. You guys have a wonderful evening. We are out.